Kenobi requirements group 2, so let's see what those are today. I have a very special guest with us. Hello, and who do we have here? ScrybeGaming, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and how are you doing today, mate?
I was excited for this all day, so Jedi Master Kenobi requirements group 2, so let's just dive deep into these. So the first that we have here, so they're going to add these, we have double drop starting May 22nd, so that's in 3 days. And then we also have Dark Side Battles rewarding double drops May 22nd, 23rd. Not really what matters, but I can let you read these if you would like to.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So first up, for the second group of requirements for Jedi Master Kenobi, we've got Qui Gon Jinn at Relic 3. I think basically everybody saw Qui Gon Jinn being a requirement here. The only thing that surprises me about this particular one is that he's Relic 3 and not Relic 7.
Yeah, Relic 3 is a really benevolent relic level to put him on, right?
You think, because nobody wants to gear up Qui Gon Jinn. Even with Cam, I would argue you don't particularly want to gear up Qui Gon Jinn, right?
Not really.
So them having him being at Relic 3, I think is quite generous of them, to be honest.
It's a little bit like Aayla, I guess.
Yeah, well, no, exactly. So, because Qui Gon Jinn taught Obi-Wan was his Padawan and everything like that. So I think everybody saw this one coming. So nice, fairly generous requirement there. Second one being Magnaguard really surprises me, but I guess it does kind of make sense because you do have that, that scene at the start of Clone Wars, is it? When they, oh no, that's Revenge of the Sith, when they board Grievous's ship and they have that fight with the Magnaguards. So I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, so they had like that ship at that beginning scene where you're like after Kenobi and Anakin fight Dooku, they go over to that ship where they fight Grievous and they have a couple of Magnaguards there where it's like Kenobi just chops off the head of one of them and he's like, ha, you didn't kill me, you haven't seen my ultimate form yet. But you do get those extra scenes against the Magnaguards back in Utapau as well, so or in Utapau instead. We have as the third one, Clone Sergeant, Phase 1. So, Relic 5, that's a character that is needed for this Phase 2 special mission in Lightside TV. Now, it's still a bit maniac to be able to pull it off with the Relic 5 here, and eventually the Cody Relic that might be needed later on. But I think I think he's still going to benefit a little bit from ships, at least, because he's going to be really thick and can be a nice reinforcement to add.
I do agree, actually. I do agree, and I think actually the Clone Sergeant ship actually does make is actually quite a good ship for Lightside GeoTV battle in the opening lineup. There's a number of lineups that can really make use of him, and it means that guilds will also potentially be able to deposit their Y-wing as well.
Yeah, so it's easier to get rid of the Y-wing and still have a competitive tank to put in there, right?
So it's not like, obviously it's not ideal. I don't particularly want to gear up Clone Sergeant, but again, there could be worse choices than Clone Sergeant. It's not I'm a Gundai or Eth Goth or something like that.
Also, I might say Bad Batch needs a fifth, and they're synergized really well with clones, so if you happen to have a Relic 5 Sarge, it's not terrible to put him in there, either.
Yeah, exactly. So overall, I'm not upset so far by these requirements.
Okay, now we gotta get into the meat of these requirements, the ones that really get you pumped up. Relic 7, Wat Tambor. What do you think of that?
With that? Oh my god, like mine's R5 already. Like, okay, most people are going to have an R5 Wat anyway for Crankor, right? I say most people. Most endgame characters or anybody that's gearing towards a Crankor viable guild is going to have at least a Relic 5 Wat. I don't mind taking him up a couple of gear levels, get him extra thick. It's not like an investment that, again, I'd really want to take to R7. But I'm not mad at it at the same time. It's not a terrible investment in the slightest. I don't know what you think.
I mean, if you're using him against Reyes, he's going to be a little bit thicker. If you're using him against Kylo, it's just that he doesn't get a lot more than extra health. But the extra health can be decisive in some matchups. So
yeah, it can mean the difference between getting one more piece of tech off, right?
It can, and even in the Rancor, right? You can go maybe a little bit deeper into Enrage because he survives a little bit better too, and that doesn't force out as much on your health mod, so you can focus on other kinds of things if needed.
That's a very valid point, actually. It does sort of ease up on the mod requirements just ever so slightly. You can put a little bit more focus on speed, so you don't have to have so much in percentage health, for example. So yeah, it's again, Relic 7 Wat for me is like. That's a gift, because that's just 2 relic levels for a character I've already got there. So for me, that's totally fine.
And
then
then,
there's the
of
last
course,
one, right?
another character that ends up shaping up the rest of this group too, that also puts a smile on my face. You can say his name, Relic 7.
Exactly, General Grievous, man. Like I had an inkling that they were going to use General Grievous as like the dark side requirement, and then they go and throw in 3. That's the curveball that hit me. I was expecting 1 dark side requirement, and I thought it would be General Grievous, simply because it's rather iconic scene. Hello there. I mean, come on. So Relic 7, General Grievous, like this has made this character incredibly accessible with this second wave of requirements. I feel like the first wave we already had Relic 8 General Kenobi. Okay, sure, it's Relic 8. It does perhaps like put it out of reach of certain players, right? And then you've got Bo-Katan, who is a pretty new character, not farmable yet. But apart from that,
I think here the issue is mostly Wat Tambor because of getting all of those shards.
Yeah.
That can be the only issue. The other characters are easily obtainable. They're not any legendaries. They're farmable characters. Grievous can be slightly difficult to obtain via the fleet currency, but eventually get through that farm.
It's a bit of a time gate more than anything, because like in my opinion, anybody that has yet to get a 7-star Wat, for example, is probably not clearing Crankor either, so they're probably not getting the Relic 8 materials for the GK. So there is a little bit of a time gate on it, just like JML, for example, has the time gate on things like Rolo and Hoder and Wampa. You know, I don't necessarily think this is a bad thing, because there are still 4 other GLs that you can go for, guys. You don't necessarily have to go for JML straight away. Jedi Master Kenobi straight away. So I'm not particularly mad at it. I think the requirements for this second batch are pretty generous, to be honest.
I think so too.
You know, everybody wants a Relic 7 Grievous, right?
Yeah.
Malevolence is a great fleet.
Yeah, it does beef up the Malevolence too. It's faster, makes it better for mirror matches for sure.
Exactly. And Grievous was one of the very first, like, most desirable
best G13s in the game, really.
Yeah, when it first came out, he was literally top of the board for, you know, recommended high relics, or even G13 at the time, simply because of the way his kit operates. He really benefited from the additional health that he's getting. So many people have got Relic 7 Grievous, which is great. And again, Magnaguard, a lot of people will have geared up Magnaguard simply for the gas event. Now, granted, they might not have taken him to Relic 5, but they might have him at high gear 12s or even low relics. So it's not that much of a big more investment.
I can actually speak in my personal situation with Magnaguard, because I didn't relic him up for the gas event. I didn't need to, but I'd love to have him reliced up for the assault battle, and now I have a perfect justification to do that. Also, if I want to, I do have SLKR, right? So if I want to run that team in arena with like separatists, with that whole comp that just gets a lot of ultimate charge, you can put Grievous, you can put in Magnaguard, all in that team and see if it works out. Of course, GBA is better than Magna, but Magna Relic 5 is not too bad. I was actually considering this investment earlier.
It certainly takes a little bit of the pain away for the Forest Moon event, because mine is only Relic 1, but he does get a significant amount of additional armor, and of course you do get a little bit of extra health and protection. And sometimes that's all you need just to survive through the early waves, or, you know, wave 4 in particular is where it gets hairy. So it's not a terrible investment again. And it's only Relic 5. If it was Relic 7, I would be a lot more irked by this.
But 5 is so much easier to go for, as well as Sarge. I think this group 2 is pretty generous and pretty easy to start working towards at the moment as well.
Oh yeah, like these characters are immediately dropping into my favorites.
Same here.
I still want to hold the gun off until we see what Group 3 is going to be.
Yes.
Before I go full in, like I've taken, I don't know about you, I've taken my GK up to R8.
I have.
But that I felt was a worthwhile investment, regardless of JMK, right? Because Relic 8 Negotiator fleet is just great. Let's be honest. So I didn't mind investing that, but for the other requirements, I haven't pulled the trigger because I want to see the full set. So I'm just hoarding for now. I don't know what you're doing.
I'm trying to hoard a little bit, although my hoard is really just not great because I was investing into other things like unlocking Darth Revan prior to the announcement of Jedi Master Kenobi, and ever since I've been trying to really bloat my roster for Commander Ahsoka Tano, but also try to keep the high-end gear for these characters if needed. So I was pretty close to finishing Batch 1. In terms of gear, we still have Bo-Katan to farm, and now I just have a whole lot more characters to work on. happily already have Wat Tambor and Grievous to Relics, so I'll have to bump them from 5 to 7, and then work out on the other ones. Magna is gear 12, Sarge and Qui Gon, I believe, are gear 8, so it should be doable, which is nice.
Yeah, I think Qui Gon Jinn and Clone Sergeant for me have got no investment, but they are older characters, and older characters typically are easier to gear as well. So
exactly.
I'm okay with it. And Qui-Gon will have some additional use with Ki-Adi-Mundi down the line. So it's not ideal, but it's an option. It's an option.
It's
not
like
a
if you want to put in
completely
Jedi Master Kenobi, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and then you slot in your Aayla, Mace, Qui-Gon, for example, something like that, where you don't want to spend your greatest Jedi, you can do that. We'll see. We still have Group 3 to do. Do you have any sort of predictions for Group 3 that you'd like to see, or characters that you would expect to be in the event that are required?
Yeah, well, we can safely say that we're going to get another 5 requirements, right, for Group 3.
Yes.
If I was to take a stab, I still think we're probably going to see something like Cody.
Yes, I think so too.
I think Cody is probably almost a cert. Apart from that, I still think we might see some additional Jedi Council characters. I don't think it's going to be Ki-Adi-Mundi personally. I think
no.
I think that narrows the pool of players that can get Jedi Master Kenobi a little too much. Who else?
Although General Skywalker would make sense to try to gate some people still, but still encourage that you need to have the best of GR before you go into Jedi Master Kenobi.
Yeah, I think that Gas is probably a pretty good shout, to be honest. There's a lot of shared relationship there. He hasn't been used for another GL as another requirement, whereas several of these other characters have. Not these in particular, but many GLs have had like one crossover tune that is required for another one. You look at Darth Vader or Palpatine, you know, they've appeared in other requirements. So having Gas come out, I think, is quite likely. We might see something like Maul. I know he's been required for C. But we might see Maul come up there because there's a classic rivalry going on there. But I don't know. I think, like I said, Cody is quite likely. Gas, I think you're probably right on the money there. Maybe Maul and 2 others.
I think one I'd personally really love to see, just because I want the justification of this. We're talking about this, I think yesterday, Jango Fett. I'd really love to have a justification to Relic Jango.
Jango Fett would fit thematically with his character arc. You know, the face-off on Kamino was cool. And who doesn't want to get a Relic 7 Jango Fett?
That'd be so sick.
I would be like, I'll Relic 8 that guy. Put him as an R8 requirement. I'm cool with that. I want an excuse to just use that rocket blast and yeet people out of the game. That would just be great.
And then you also have that unique Zeta just prevent revives. Cool things you have there. Yeah, it's a great character. That leaves up one more slot. What do you guys think would be that open slot that we just leave for you? Let us know in the comments down below. And that'll be all. Do you have any further thoughts about this, Scribe?
No, all I can say is this is a lot more accessible than I thought it was going to be. A lot more generous than I thought it was going to be. So I think this is cool so far. But let's hold our breath until we see the last set of requirements before we talk.
Let's see. We gotta hold on a little bit more. It's only June the 2nd, so that's when we'll know the Group 3. But for now, we can, I don't know, if we're super committed into this, we can start working and seeing where this fits the Horde and where it doesn't. So that'll be it. So thank you guys so much for watching, and well, hopefully you guys are happy with these requirements so far. I'm also pretty stoked. These are some great characters to Relic up. Grievous and what I'm particularly pleasant about. So that'll be all, and thank you so much for watching.